Good evening. Happy Thursday. Once again, welcome back to the Man Cave after a week off because yours truly was sick last week and I just did not feel like doing the live stream. Now, Tanya's got it. So, Tanya's not going to be with us tonight, but we do have Brother Jeff down in Orlando. And from what I understand, everybody in Jeff's world is sick also.
Yep, everybody's got flu A, except for me, the
Yeah.
last man standing. And hopefully I
So,
remain that way.
yeah, I'm feeling I'm about 90% over what I had. I just had a cold and a lot of head and upper respiratory congestion. So, but I slugged my way through work last weekend with the help of over the counter pharmaceuticals, and this week I'm not taking anything. I take something before I go to bed at night, but other than that, I'm good to go. I've gotten over everything that's bothered me. So it's good to be back. I missed last week. I was really looking forward to it. So we're here.
Yeah. Well, I'm not in my usual location because I'm trying to isolate myself from all
Yeah.
these
So I'm
people that
gonna
are in my petri dish.
I'm going to get my bourbon on. I'm almost done with this bottle of Benchmark Foolproof, so I'm gonna keep working on that. I'm gonna get a nice pour of that this evening. I don't think I can finish that one tonight simply because if I do, I'll have to have help up the stairs when I'm done. So we'll save that last splash for later. And Jeff, you're not gonna partake tonight, are you?
No, I'm drinking coffee just in case I need to hit some meds here later.
Well, there you go. So cheers, everybody. If you're having a drink with us, let me know what you're having and let me know where you're from. I'm going to try to keep up with the comments as best I can tonight because Tanya's not here. Uh, we got Ryan and Michael and Anthony and Mike. Uh, Anurag's with us, Smoking Tar Heel and Russ over on YouTube. Good deal. So, cheers. Well, we will get things rolling. And let's see here. Trying to keep up with everything. Uh, Once again, I appreciate everybody that's made contributions to the live stream. It's I've been collecting enough to actually cover the cost of this, so that's been very, very helpful. And if anybody feels like contributing, I've got the information up here on the screen. Just even if it's just a few dollars, it all goes towards paying the cost of running the software that we're doing here for the live stream. And I'll put this information back up on the screen a little bit later during the broadcast, or I'll have that banner running across the bottom with it on there. But once again, I've gotten a lot of great contributions, and I do appreciate all of that. It's greatly appreciated, and makes it a lot easier. The weather here in Western North Carolina has forgotten that it's winter time. We had temperatures in the mid 70s this week. Uh, every day, I think it's been in the mid 70s. I think it may cool back off a little bit next week, but I hate days like today, for instance, was a perfect example. It's 34 degrees when you get up in the morning, and if you're going somewhere, you got to dress for the cooler weather. But by 10 or 11 in the morning, you're regretting having put that hoodie on. But they don't have winter in Florida. Jeff doesn't know what it's like to have winter.
Wait. Let's correct this, John. Jeff used to live in Great Falls, Montana. Jeff is
Montana.
well aware of
Yeah.
winter.
I don't know where Great Falls is. I know where Missoula is.
It's not far from Missoula.
Not far. So it's up close to the Canadian border up there somewhere.
Yep.
Yep. buddy Paul. I haven't had him on here lately. He's in Missoula. He's probably still in the snow. Another friend of mine used to live in Missoula, and he said that he drove this big Ford Bronco, and he said he would put his Bronco in 4-wheel drive in about September, and it didn't come out again until about late April or early May. They get a lot of snow up there, so
Yep. Yes, they do.
we haven't had more than a dusting of snow here this year at all. So it really hasn't had.
Well, when we were there, Dad always kept blankets and water in the car because
Yeah,
we'd go up to the mountains, to either hunt or
right,
fish. You didn't know when a snowstorm would come in. You may get caught in it.
right. All right. Let's see here. Let me get back over here to the comments page. I'm going to try my best to keep up with the comments tonight, guys. But once again, my executive producer's on the fritz. She's not feeling well at all.
You should have had me log in on that category.
Yeah, I don't have that extra login on that anymore. I'll have to figure that out.
Yep.
We'll sort that out sometime. Maybe I can add that. I don't know. I have to go to the next. I can't just add that now. They've changed it to where
No, you got to go to the next level.
You have to buy the top tier level of service to get that extra person there, that extra account in that area. And that level of service costs, I think, 3 times what this one does. Yeah. So I'll have to go back and look. It's expensive, though.
It's not worth it for those few times.
I don't want to push it that far. No. Yeah, Russ, I hope she gets to feeling better, too. She didn't get maybe 2 hours of sleep last night. She finally got up and went to the couch last night. I guess about 1:00 in the morning, and
maybe hammered John, out. Glad to see you're repping your Gibson.
Oh yeah, my new T-shirt. One of my new T-shirts. I got a couple of Gibson T-shirts. But yeah, that was some of the refuse from my trip to Nashville a few weeks back.
Next, we'll see you in a Lego T-shirt.
No, I don't know about that. Tanya's the one that would have a Lego T-shirt. Tanya's going to their world headquarters sometime in May, so we'll see what she comes back with. Yeah. So, all right. Let's see here. One of the things I was going to do last week that I didn't get to because I didn't feel good. So I posted. Let me come over here and bring it up. I posted this question on my Facebook page. I said, "Here's your chance to win. What is my favorite commercial barbecue rub?" And the hint is it's not one of my own rub recipes. So that rules out any of the Mojo series rubs or any of my homemade stuff. It's something commercial. And I asked people to post their guesses in the comments. And I went through this a little earlier today, and I think I figured out that I got 21 guesses at this, and none of them are correct. Ryan guessed the Lane Spellbound. One of my friends here in town guessed the Holy Gospel from Meat Church. And I'm going to have that Low and Slow barbecue show. I'm going to see if I can get him to come on with me sometime. He does a podcast I was on the first episode of his podcast, and his podcast has really grown and got a lot of cool stuff on it. I'm going to see if maybe I can get him to come on here with me one Thursday night. Stephen guessed Lane's Kunami, and Carla guessed AGC Volcano Dust, and Janice didn't guess. Or did Janice make a guess in here? She didn't. So that means there's only 20 guesses instead of the 21 I think I had originally counted. I don't know where Honorog came up with this Fiesta season at all. I don't know if I'd even heard of that before. I know about the Fiesta stuff, but I've never heard of that one. The Himalayan Sherpa. There's several in here from AGC. The Plowboys Yardbird. So James didn't make a guess either. So that means there's 19 guesses. There's another one for Himalayan Sherpa. Spellbound. Dust Bowl. Magic Dust. Sweet Heat. Lane's AP. That is a good one. This Atlanta Grill Company meat rub, I couldn't figure out what there is no such rub, so but I left it in there. I guess I really should take that one out as a non-valid guess. And there's another one that just says Meat Church, which is I don't know if he came back and replied to me with a comment on which one. He did, Honey Hog. Okay, so we're going to go with 19. There are 19 picks, and none of them are correct. Nobody got the right answer. So I'm going to give one away, but my favorite all-purpose General Barbecue rub, if I could only have one commercial barbecue rub, is this guy right here. It's Malcolm Reed's Killer Hogs The Barbecue Rub. This is a fantastic rub. I've used this on pork. I've used it on beef, and it works great all the way around. So that is this is my favorite, and I'm going to give a bottle of that away.
Does that have heat, John?
Have what? Did you?
Does that have heat in it?
Heat.
Yeah. Does it have heat? The rub.
A hot? You mean is it a hot rub?
Yeah.
No, there's a hot version of it.
Okay.
Or you can add cayenne to that one to make it hot, but it's not a hot rub. It's not spicy at all. It's a sweet rub. So what I want to do here is get a random number. In fact, I think we decided we were going to go with 19. 19 valid guesses. So I'm going to pull out a random number between 1 and 19 inclusive, which will be 8. So we'll come back over here and I'll go down to the 8th correct comment or 8th comment. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Janice didn't make a suggestion. Carla was just commenting there. 5 for Honorog, 6 for Mike, 7 for Jeff James. James Kennedy didn't make a suggestion. Steve Cole will be the winner. So I will send Steve a message and to get his address. So I will PM him and get his address, and I will send him a bottle of that rub. So if any of you guys tried that rub, if you haven't, you really might want to add it to your to-do list. Jeff, have you had it before?
No, but before I get any additional rubs, I gotta kind of weed through what I got.
Yeah.
I'm sitting
we're
gonna
work on that
rub right now.
I wanted to do this as a predecessor to next week, because Jeff and I, we're going to start doing a thing on the first live stream of the month. We're going to do a rub and a sauce review, and we've talked about it. And what we've decided that we're going to do is Jeff and I are both going to do the same rub and the same sauce, where we can compare notes. And what I'm hoping to be able to do is, I know I want to cook something for next week using the rub that we're going to do, which we'll announce next week. And I may try to do something with the sauce we're going to do also. We've picked the sauce, but I need to see if I can find the sauce. I'm not 100% sure that I have that here yet. I may have to order it. So we'll see about that. But
Publix has it.
Okay, well, I'll swing by Publix tomorrow then. and see if my Publix has it.
Walmart has it too, so whichever one of those is closer.
Walmart would be a better bet for me. Publix is out of my way. Any day of the week, it's out of my way. I'm not ever by there. I have to make it a point to go there, and I do that occasionally because Tanya and I like to go there once or twice a month. But uh, it's out of my way from anywhere I'm ever going,
Mm-hmm.
and it's 20 miles from my house over to Publix. It's about 3 miles past where I work. It's not hard for me to go there on a work day, though. I'm close enough to it on a work day I can run by. I have to drive past about every store, every grocery store in Hickory to get to Publix because it's like the last one before you get to the lake. Okay. Jeff did a little cooking this week. Tell us about it, Jeff.
Well, you know how we like our Walmart extra meaty baby backs. I was in
Yep.
Walmart picking up something for Kathy, I think Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday. And I decided, well, let's go by and check, see if they got any big ones in. Because here for the last couple times, we've only had like 3.5 pounders, and we don't like those. They got to be 5. So I dug through all of them, and about midway through, I found one slab of 5.02 pounds. I said,
Right.
gotcha. So I seasoned it up, took the skin off the back, seasoned it up with Atlantic Grill's butt and rib rub,
Mm-hmm.
and threw it on the Huntsman at 225.
Let me
And
move the
go ahead.
picture.
Yeah.
The Huntsman.
No, that just shows the Huntsman. If you look close at it, you'll see that she's running right at 225. Every hour I would spritz it.
What are you spritzing with?
I'm just spritzing with water. I didn't want to
Yeah.
use apple cider. And then after 2 hours, I decided to wrap. And when I wrapped, I coated it with some Run Amok.
You said 2 hours?
And when it, yeah, right at 2 hours, I wrapped. I was at 160 already at 2 hours.
Right.
So then after I unwrapped, I went ahead and basted it with Atlantic Grill Company sweet rub and let that tack up for 15 minutes or so.
Salt? Yep.
And then while that was going, the last 45 minutes of the cook, I cranked up the Connected Joe and got the wok out and started layering my ingredients. You know, you got to start with bacon. All things got to start with bacon.
Bacon.
Bacon. And to the bacon, I added some onions. And then I took that out of the wok and I threw in my multicolored baby potatoes that I'd sliced and let them start browning nicely. And
Yeah.
then turned around and added some fresh cut green beans
Nice.
and got those just el dente. And then I put the bacon and onions back in and seasoned it up with some Himalaya Sherpa.
How long does it take to get those potatoes cooked in that wok like that?
Right about, I was running 450, so right about 20 minutes, I think it took for the potatoes to cook. Maybe not quite that long.
That looks
And there it
good.
is plated. You can see.
Posted that picture this afternoon. The ribs look banging, and I'm interested in the potato idea too. I've never tried cooking potatoes like that. I do a hash, which I guess you could call this a hash if you wanted to, but the only difference between this and what my mind sees as a hash is the dice on the potato.
Yep.
And it looks really good. The green beans were an interesting addition to that. I think that's a fantastic idea. You could even you could put peas in that, or anything you want, any kind of vegetable medley you want to put in there would be good with that.
You
And you
know,
just
that's my go-to.
yeah, you say you went with Himalayan Sherpa at the end.
Yep.
So that's another thing I want to talk about. Remind me before we get off tonight. I want to talk about the AP seasonings, or actually, we'll just save that for next week because I'll start our conversation next week talking about AP seasonings because that's an important thing. I want to look at that in a little more detail. But that looks delicious, Jeff. That's those ribs. Those, like I said, and Jeff and I are the world's biggest cheerleaders for those extra meaty baby back ribs they sell at Walmart. But you
Yep.
gotta look for the right rack. You gotta get the big ones.
Yep.
All extra meaty ribs are not created equal. You will find racks in that cooler anywhere
No.
from 2 3/4 pounds to 5.5 pounds. But you need to don't get anything that weighs less than 4.5 pounds. Wait for the big racks because on those racks, down on the end where the short bones are, there's some amazing meat down there on the
Yes,
short
there is.
bone end of the rack. And
It's got some of the pork loin in there, and oh man,
yes,
it's just
it's fantastic.
and
It's
those ribs were absolutely perfect.
yeah,
They would be considered competition ribs in the fact that you had a little bit of pull, but when it came off the bone, it didn't leave any meat on the bone.
yeah,
But the bones themselves just didn't fly out like you can do if you want to make a McRib sandwich.
right. This is something I need to do that I haven't done yet. Is I need to get a rack of beef ribs on the Huntsman because I have not cooked beef ribs on the
Ooh,
Huntsman yet.
I have twice, and they came out
So
so good.
I need to go get some, and I've got easy access to beef ribs now with that U.S. Food Chef store being here in town. I don't have to deal with Publix on that anymore, and they're fairly reasonably priced. And I can't remember if I can buy a single rack. I may still have to buy 2 racks of them, but that's okay. I don't mind having more of that than I need. So
Freeze one, cook one.
yeah, so yeah, that looks amazing, and this potato thing something Tanya would eat too. So she she would actually like that with the green beans in it because she'll eat green beans any day of the week. And I often cook. I'll buy those green beans at the grocery store that are I don't know what you call them. They're like fresh green beans, but they're in a bag in the produce section. They're I don't know. They're about 6 or 7 inches long, and
That's what these were.
they don't have the ends cut off. So I'll cut the ends off of them, and I like to toss them in oil and season them with something like Himalayan Sherpa or some sort of AP rub, and I put them under the broiler uh, and let them blister, and let them get little black spots all over them. That way they're cooked all the way through, but they've still got some crunch. They've still got a little crunch to them. And Tanya loves those. She loves it.
That's what I like about the wok. The wok does
Yeah,
that cook just phenomenally.
right.
I mean that carbon steel wok, that's one of the best things. The carbon steel wok, the griddle, the half moon pans, all that carbon steel line that KJ came out with, they hit the nail on the
Yeah.
head with it.
Well, only I've got the half moon pans. I don't have the wok. I don't know. I'm still trying to decide what I want to do about my wok cooking. I love cooking in a wok, and since I decided not to keep my Camp Chef pellet smoker that I bought with that side burner on it, my wok stations is no longer here. I don't have a great burner to cook on the wok with, and I'm trying to decide about a new wok burner. We'll talk about that later too, because that's
I'll tell
beside
you
the
what, that Connected Joe does a good job. I put that thing
yeah,
in dojo mode
yeah,
so that it goes full blast with the dome up. And I tell you what, you got to
right,
wear gloves. That thing
yeah,
kicks the flames up around all the way across the top. And I say, if you don't have gloves on, you don't have hair. I can guarantee you that.
Hang on a minute. I forgot to add my recipe image to my pictures here. And I probably can't, I'm not going to be able to do it from this computer. Or, well, yeah, maybe I will. Uh, I did save it to my OneDrive, so I wanted to share the recipe for my meatballs. I've made this recipe before, so some of you may already have it, or you may have cooked it. Let me make sure it added it. It did. Okay. So I decided to do some homemade smoked Italian meatballs, and I did mine on the Huntsman as well. And the Huntsman did too good a job with this, and we'll talk about that along towards the end of this. But one of the things I like to stress is when I use garlic, I always, without fail, use fresh garlic. There is a difference. It makes a difference. And I get better results when I'm using fresh garlic. Anytime you want to use finely chopped or minced garlic, this is a trick that I learned from Adam Perry Lang in one of his books. I don't remember if it was Serious Barbecue or something else. You grate your garlic cloves on a microplane grater. And I needed 2 cloves of garlic for this recipe. And I used the microplane grater that's not the finest one. It's the next to the finest one. This is one that you might use to make zest with. I've got 2 different coarsenesses on that microplane, and this is it's not the finest one, but this is what you get when you use that. And it just works so beautifully well. I don't know how to describe the difference, but if you ever get the opportunity to do this, or if you're not doing this, give it a try next time you need minced garlic. Uh, Garlic, I tend to buy, I don't know what it is. Garlic should keep for a long time, garlic bulbs, but it seems like if I go to the grocery store and buy a garlic bulb, if I don't use all of the cloves in that bulb within a week or 10 days, they're all sprouting. It's so I tend to I end up buying a bulb of garlic about every time I go to the grocery store. So maybe what I should start doing is buy those bags of garlic cloves that are peeled already and just keep them in the refrigerator. Jeff, have you ever bought those?
Yep,
How long do they keep?
long time.
So if you keep them in the fridge, they're going to stay usable for a good while. Maybe I'll try that next time instead of
Your bulbs will
buying.
last longer too if you just put them in a brown sandwich or a lunch bag and put them in the
Yeah.
refrigerator. Keeps
Okay.
it nice and dark, and they don't seem
Well,
to
I would
sprout
want to
quite
put
as
them in
fast.
something. Yeah, they'd have to be in something because I don't want my refrigerator to smell like garlic. I don't put onion or garlic unwrapped in the refrigerator. So anyway, that's what my minced garlic looks like. This I grated some pecorino romano cheese with that same grater, oddly enough, to use in this. And this is Publix brand. It's a real their house brand. I don't know where it comes from, but their pecorino romano and their parm are both excellent. They're really good, and they're very reasonably priced. And one of these blocks of pecorino romano and the parm, they last forever. They go a really long way. Ground beef. I got some 9010. They had 9010. I can't remember now if it was 9010 or 93.7. It was on sale. It was and I'll buy it if I'll buy whatever's on sale. It's expensive as beef is today. So two slices of sandwich style bread with the crust cut off, just cut into cubes, And my regular recipe for this calls for milk, but I was out of milk. Didn't realize I was out of milk, but I had some heavy cream, so I used that instead. So you just pour some heavy cream in on top of your bread and toss it in it, and just let it soak it up. And I put too much in there. I put a lot more in there than I needed. So what I do then is just pull it up and kind of wring it out, wring the excess heavy cream out, and then toss that bread and heavy cream soaked bread right into the bowl with your ground beef. Everything else that went into this was some salt, some black pepper, my minced garlic, a little bit of ricotta cheese, my my pecorino romano, an egg, and some fresh chopped flat leaf parsley. And all the quantities on this I'll show you in the recipe image when we're done. So all of that, you just dump it into the bowl with the bread and the ground beef. And I just went to work with my hands on that and got it all mixed up. And I did this the day before I was going to cook. And this is in a glass bowl. I put my lid on this bowl and put that bowl in the refrigerator and let that kind of brine, if you want to, for lack of a better term, in the refrigerator overnight before I made meatballs the next day. I got my Huntsman set up. I decided just to use an indirect cook. I baked up some charcoal on one side and got it going and set up. I guess you would just call this a very simple 2-zone. I had heat on one side and no heat on the other. And I set it up for 425. That's about where I like to go with these meatballs. These meatballs are a fairly quick cook. They don't take long. And I made these meatballs. I got my scale out this time so I could figure out how much these weighed. And these meatballs were 7/10 of an ounce. And I got 32 meatballs out of this amount that I did. I made 2 different pans for it. I got 32 meatballs out of this one batch. And that's what they look like. And these meatballs with that bread in there that's got the heavy cream or milk in it, these meatballs are kind of soft and wet. You gotta be careful with them. They're not what you would think, but they're delicious in the end. So I set my little pan on the indirect side, and what I didn't show here, I don't think, is I didn't, or there you go. I put a chunk of hickory in there to get a little smoke going, and this cook's only going to run for less than 20 minutes because you want to get those meatballs up to about at least 160 internally before you take them off. And they're going to coast up past that a little bit, but not a whole lot. And you don't want to leave them in there you don't want to dry them out. So there's just a picture of my thermometer on the Spider or on the Huntsman showing that I was running right around 425 on this. And this is what they look like when they're done. They've got a beautiful caramelization on the outside. They've browned nicely in there. That higher temperature gives you a browning effect like that pretty quickly. So I took those off and let them rest. And they darken up even a little bit more while they're resting. And these meatballs, you can use these are what I would call general purpose meatballs. There's not a whole lot of meatball applications where these won't work. Tanya and I use meatballs like this in spaghetti. We'll put some in spaghetti sauce. We'll make meatball subs with it, with a marinara sauce and provolone cheese, just whatever. But what went wrong here for me is the smoke. These got over smoked for my taste. That one chunk of hickory that I put in there put too much smoke on these, in my opinion. Next time, and if you're going to do these, if you want to put smoke on them, be very careful with how much you give it. I would recommend, if you've not done this before, do these without adding any smoking wood to start with, because these things absorb smoke quickly. And like I said, they were only on for 20 minutes. And for my personal taste, these had too much smoke on them in the end. Uh they did they did pretty well though. They tasted fine. They were just a little too smoky for my preference. You've made meatballs many times before, haven't you? Yeah.
Yep.
Do you put smoke to them when you do it?
No.
Just let the charcoal do the work.
Yep. Whatever
Well,
smoke it gets off the lump, that's what it gets.
I'm still learning the personality on the Huntsman. So and it does a great job with smoke. It's too good in some cases, like this one. I didn't figure that one little small piece of hickory. That piece of hickory was. I'm trying to think about give a relation to how big that was. It wasn't very big at all.
It looked
It
like
was
about a 1 inch square piece,
it was
probably
it
about 2 inches long.
it was maybe 1 by 2 inches and maybe a half an inch thick. It was these chunks that I get in these boxes that I buy are fist sized chunks, and I take my hatchet and break one of those chunks into 6 to 8
Yep.
pieces, and it's very rare that I ever use more than one chunk out of the box in any cook that I'm doing. So the that one that one just got too much smoke on it for my taste. It it was too smoky. I will still use them though. So we also missed Valentine's Day because I didn't feel like cooking last week. But I'll give you a quick tour of Tanya. This is out of all the cooking I do, out of all the stuff that I like to think is amazing food that I make most of the time. This is my wife's favorite meal that I put together, and this slot dog is the hero of this meal. This is a tool that cuts crosshatches in hot dogs, and I've had this thing for quite a while now, and you can see what it does here. And yes, this is something you can do with a knife if you want to, but I just like this tool. It makes it real easy to do, and we use these Hebrew National bun length hot dogs. And this part works better if you put those hot dogs in the freezer for about 15 minutes before you're ready to do this. It makes this process go real smoothly. And I just did that to these hot dogs, and I put them on the grill. And I think I had the Huntsman running somewhere between 4 and 450, because that's about where I like to be on this. Because that when you're cooking these indirect, these hot dogs take 10 to 12 minutes to cook over indirect heat at that temperature. And you can see how they open up. That cross hatching opens these things up and creates more surface area where you get more smokiness and more flavor development on these things during the cook. And that cross hatching also keeps those hot dogs from curling. They stay straight. They don't curl up like a hot dog will sometimes when you put it over the heat. Second big thing, or the first of the two things that makes this Tanya's favorite meal, is my homemade chili. We've talked about this before. The recipe is out there. I don't have the recipe to share here tonight, but I think I'll bring that on. I'll line a top sliced bun with some of my homemade hot dog chili, put the slot dog on there, and then it gets topped with some of my homemade pimento cheese. And once that's done, it goes back on the grill for 5 minutes or so with the lid closed to melt that pimento cheese. And that's Tanya's favorite meal, served with Funyuns. That's
That's what I was going to
Valentine's.
say. Funyuns.
Yep, that's Valentine's Day meal here at the Man Cave every year. That's my wife's favorite thing. And here's the recipe for the meatballs. I'll just leave it on there. You can do a screen capture on that, or you can come back later and it'll be here. You can rewatch and come back to this. So it's a real simple recipe, and meatballs are like they're like meatloaf. You can put whatever you want in there. You just have to make sure the meat to egg to bread ratio needs to stay fairly consistent, or one of two things will happen. They'll either fall apart or they'll be too dense, and you don't want either one of those when you're making meatballs. So that was the extent of my Valentine's Day Valentine's Day cook. But man, we love those. We love making slot dogs. That's been a thing. I don't know. The slot dog story is kind of a funny one. Back in my earlier days of doing work with Kamado Joe, I went to a trade show in Atlanta that Bobby had me come down for. And actually, this was the weekend that I met Eric for the first time in person. And I met a lot of the guys that I know now, like Jeff. Jeff wasn't at that. I met Luca for the first time that weekend, and I met Mark Ashby and a few others. We all got together for dinner one night down there, but I was wandering around this trade show, and I heard somebody yelling my name, and I looked off, and there was a guy at some booth over there yelling my name, asking me to come over. He recognized me from being on YouTube with Kamado Joe, and he had this thing called the slot dog. He was there demonstrating and pimping the slot dog in a booth, and he says, "I'd like to give you one of these." He says, "I don't care if you ever show it on a video or not, but he says I'd really like to have your feedback on it." I thought it was kind of a joke. I said, this is not something that I would ever use. And
little did you know.
Yeah, we were making jokes about it for the rest of the day. I had it in my hand when I walked back over to the Kamado Joe booth, and Bobby looked at that thing and says, "What is that?" And I said, "Oh, this is the next big thing." And I showed that to him. He said, "What?" And he says, "Oh, I guess I'm going to be paying for a video of that, aren't I?" And I said, "No." I said, "I'm not going to make a video with it." I told him the story about the guy giving it to me. And but when I got home with it, I said, "Well, we're going to try it out." And all I can say is that since I did that the first time, I've never made hot dogs without using it. That's how much I like that. When I got that one, they were selling for $15. They were $14.99, and I think now they're $19.99, and they're available on Amazon. So buy one, go buy one, try it out, and see what you think. It makes a great hot dog. It really does. And yes, I already know you can do it with a knife, but it's not the same. It won't be as good. Trust me. Jeff, tell him it won't be as good. It won't. It won't be as good as this. It's just like I tell people, the food on the red grill tastes better no matter what you think. The slot dog makes a better tasting hot dog than you can make by cutting it with your knife that way. So I did order myself another toy that should be here tomorrow that I've been wanting to get for a while. My sister gifted me a deep fryer. I think I may have told you all about that a couple weeks ago. I was considering buying one, and she gave me one. And I want to get my French fry game going again. And I bought a French fry cutter, and I'm ready to. I also learned, Jeff, this week, one of the things Tanya wanted this week while she was sick was some of my homemade potato soup.
That's what Kathy wanted too.
Yeah, I realized when I was making that potato soup, I said, I really wished I had ordered that French fry cutter and had it here already, because I had to hand prep 3 or 3.5 pounds of Yukon Gold potatoes. I had to cube that. And I don't mind doing that prep, but it takes a while to cut up. And also, I don't care. I don't peel mine. I leave the peels on my potatoes when I make potato soup. I like potato skins. I don't have any problem with that, but the only time I ever peel a potato is if I'm going to make fondant potatoes with russets, because it's an appearance thing. I want it to look nice. and those won't look nice with the skin on. So I take the skin off of the russets if I'm going to make fondant potatoes. But all I would have had to do with those potatoes to prep them for this thing was slice them and then run them through the French fry cutter. And it would have taken me all of 3 minutes to prep all those potatoes, where it probably took me 20 minutes to do it by hand. But the potato soup that I make is a recipe that I've been playing with. I've made it a few times now, but it's a New York Times cooking recipe that I came across. Or maybe I can't remember if I came across it or if Tanya came. Tanya may have been the one that found that recipe. She says, "This looks good." She says, "I want you to try this." And she knows well enough that I can't make one by the. I won't follow the recipe, so she'll say, "Do it by the recipe the first time." So that's what I did, and we both agreed that it needed a few tweaks. It needed some additional things done to it, like a little more black pepper than it called for, and maybe an addition of something like a chipotle powder, chipotle, or even cayenne. I think either one of those bring a goodness to this potato soup. I also believe that I would like to try it with a roasted poblano. I think that would be really good in the potato soup. Jeff, you made a potato soup this week too. Did you? What do you? What goes in yours? I don't know if I've seen your recipe before.
Well, this one that I made was Julia Child's potato soup recipe, and all it is potatoes, water, which next time I'll use chicken stock.
Yeah.
Salt, 3 cups of leeks, heavy cream, and you can use either heavy cream or butter. I use both.
Right.
And it came out really good. It didn't call for it didn't call for pepper, but in tasting it, I said it needs some pepper. It needed more salt than the recipe called for, because potatoes always require a good dose of salt to get it where you want it to be.
When you go to a chicken stock, you won't have to add as much, because you'll bring a lot of salt with the stock probably.
Well, not that much, because I use the low sodium.
Yeah.
The better than bouillon.
Tanya and I like this better than bouillon. Even I don't know. The low sodium one, I don't know how much lower it is. I haven't gotten the low sodium version yet.
It's quite a bit lower.
Is it?
I was looking around for the for that ham one that Tanya talked about the last time. I guess I'm gonna have to order it from Amazon. Nobody here's got it.
Did you look at Publix?
Publix don't have it.
There's one store here. There's an Ingles here. Do you have Ingles in Florida?
No.
Okay.
All we have is we have Publix, we have Walmart, we have Sedano's, we have El Presidente.
Right. Okay. Well,
Winn-Dixie's gone because Aldi bought them out.
Yeah. But
we still have a couple Winn-Dixies, but
the Better Than Bouillon company's got a lot of different flavors, and Tanya and I think I only keep the roasted chicken one in my refrigerator down here, but Tanya keeps the vegetable base. She keeps the roasted chicken. I think she's got the beef, and she had one other one last time I looked. I don't remember what it is.
I just keep the beef and the chicken, the low sodium.
That's another thing. Tanya did have me change the New York Times recipe the first time, because she wanted me to leave the celery out of the mirepoix. She wanted me to just use the onions and carrots. And when I made this this week, I forgot that. And I put the celery in it. And she doesn't like the flavor that celery brings. So one of the things I was thinking was, next time I make that, maybe instead of using the celery, maybe just do a poblano, or a mixture maybe of poblano and green peppers. Give it the what do they call that? The Cajun mirepoix.
Yeah. Well, this one here, when you get it all cooked, the potatoes are nice and soft. Throw it in the food processor, and it's a nice thick soup. She's happy with it. But like I say, next time I definitely want to do the chicken stock rather than water.
Yep. And Carl, it will not work. The slot dog will not work on a hot dog with a casing. It does not. It's it's only for your general grocery store variety hot dogs. It also, I don't know if it'll work on those big quarter-pound hot dogs. I haven't ever tried one because Tanya doesn't like those, and I've not bought any because she doesn't like them. Uh,
The big ballparks.
well, I don't remember who makes them. I know that the chef store, the U.S. Food chef store here, has some of these huge hot dogs that are the Hebrew National. They're they're
Really?
actually blunt.
Quarter
Yeah,
pounder?
they're bigger than a quarter pound. I think they may be 5 ounces. They're really big hot dogs, and I might pick a pack up sometime. But if I do, I'm going to be stuck eating them all because Tanya does not like the ones that big. She likes the regular size hot dogs. So, uh, so next week we're going to talk about we're going to do a rub and a sauce review slash discussion. And like I said, hopefully I'm going to cook something. I know I'm going to cook something with the rub. And if I get the time to get it all done, I will cook something with the sauce as well because I don't think the rub and the sauce that we're doing don't go well together. I wouldn't
No,
think. And
no, not at
we're going
all.
to talk. We'll talk about that. Maybe the next time around we'll get a sauce and a rub that we can use
Yeah.
together. This particular one won't. Uh, so what else do we need to talk about? Let me glance through here and see if I've got any questions that I.
I made some killer Mexican street corn this week.
Yeah,
Hmm. The Huntsman does a really nice job on that.
right. Uh, yeah, Honorog says keep the garlic in a dark place. I do that, but that doesn't seem to keep my garlic from sprouting. Uh, let's see. Anthony says, "What are your thoughts on St. Louis Spare?" Uh, I don't have a problem with them. My preference if it's going to be ribs is baby backs because I think the flavor of the meat up higher on the rib is better. Uh,
Totally agree with that. Particularly
now
those extra meaty ones. I mean,
the
those things have
the
got so much flavor to them. I mean,
yeah,
if you guys haven't tried those, I'm going to tell you, try it. You won't go back to anything else. Seriously, unless you're looking to put
Anthony,
out ribs cheaply.
yeah, Anthony says he wants to cook. His first comment was, "I want to talk about ribs." He says, "I love baby back ribs, and I've been really wanting to buy a rack of spare and trim them down to a competition rack and cook just to see how they compare." I think you should do that, Anthony. If you've never done that, absolutely do that. But when you trim those down, that's the fun part, in my opinion, of cooking pork spare ribs. Is don't buy a rack that's already trimmed to St. Louis cut. Go ahead and buy the whole rack and trim it yourself because that meat that you're trimming off, you're going to want to do something else with it. There's a couple of things you can do with it. Number one of the things I like to do, they call those the rib tips that you're cutting off. I like to throw them on the smoker with the ribs because they cook just like rib meat and they're great. The other thing you can do with them is grind them and use them in ground pork. But if you're going to do that, there's some cartilage in there. You want to get that out before you grind it. Go ahead and trim that out before you grind, and it makes great stuff. It's really good. I highly recommend trying. I've got no problem with pork spares. I just like baby backs better. Pork spares are cheaper than baby backs usually. The
Yeah,
baby backs are more expensive per pound than the pork spares. If you buy pork spare ribs that are already St. Louis cut, you're probably going to pay baby back price for it. I figure because you're going to pay extra for having somebody else trim it down for you.
yeah. These ribs
So
that I bought this time were $3 a pound or $2.99 a
Yeah,
pound,
that's not bad.
which was not bad for the baby backs.
Yeah. Anthony also said that Costco's got $8 off of a pork belly, which is a really good deal because I think if I remember correctly, pork belly was only $3 or $4 a pound at Costco to begin with. I think it may have been $3 a pound last time I saw it because they had some full bellies down there that were, I don't know, 10 or 11 pounds. Uh, let's see. And Robert also mentioned, that's another thing he mentioned, this Killer Hogs rub, you can get this at most Walmarts. This is
Mhm.
not hard to find now. He's in Walmart, and this is $10 for this bottle. It's
Walmart has it.
$10.
Publix has it.
Yeah, you'll Malcolm. There's a lot of these rubs that are in Walmart now,
Academy
and
Sports has
also
that one
places
too.
Academy. Right, mine came from Academy. That's where I get mine, or that's where I got this one. Academy's got a lot of the Meat Church line, and they've got a lot of the Heath Riles. Academy's got a great selection of good quality barbecue rubs. If you've got an Academy Sports near you anywhere, it's worth checking out.
Yeah, they got Mo Cason's rubs there. Meat
Yeah.
Church.
Let's see. So Tar Heel remembers me telling at some point that was my favorite rub. So I have mentioned it on here, but I don't think it sunk in very far because nobody remembered that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So I don't think
that's
I could pare my favorite commercial rub down to one.
Well, it would be difficult. It sure would, but
I
got
could do three.
I've got to admit this one thing when it comes to rubs for me now. Most everything I do when it comes to cooking, I'm using one of my homemade rubs. I've got 3 varieties of homemade rub. I've got an all-purpose, I've got a pork, and I've got a beef. And there's one variation on the beef rub. If I'm making pastrami, I use a variation of the beef rub. But stuff like this, my favorite thing to use this for is to put on the meat after it's cooked. This is an add-on rub for me. But I've got no. I would cook a butt with this, and I have cooked butts with this. I've cooked briskets with this. I've cooked tri-tips with this. I've cooked ribs with this. I've cooked chicken with this. Malcolm Reed, when I first started following Malcolm on YouTube a really long time ago, he used it. This is all he used. He used it on everything he cooked. He didn't have but one rub, and that was before you could buy it. And back then, I think he was giving his recipe away at the time too. I don't remember. I don't know if that's still out there or not now that he's commercial with it. I'd have to go back and look and see if that recipe still exists. And I don't remember for sure that he gave it away, but I think he used to tell you basically what was in his rub. I don't remember. But I don't. The only problem I've got with commercial rubs is how much they cost compared to how much you can make a rub for. And the more I do this, the more I'm in line with Meathead Goldwyn about making your barbecue rub without salt. And you put the salt on your meat first and then add your rub to it later that's not got any salt in it. If you can go online and get the Meathead Memphis Dust rub recipe for free from the AmazingRibs.com website, and it's also in his book. That rub doesn't have any salt in it. It's dependent on you salting the meat first because he thinks the same way I do about meat, and it's better to dry brine your meat. Salt it ahead of time where that salt can go to work and be doing its thing 12 to 24 hours before you're going to cook. And then you want to come back and add your rub, but you don't want to add more salt to it at that point. It's got all
particularly
the
if
salt
you're doing bigger cuts of meat.
Yeah. The general rule of thumb for adding salt to meat is that you add a teaspoon of salt per pound. And that's just a general rule, and it changes from person to person as to what your taste is. But when you add this, let's say to a pork butt, I don't think, even if you put a liberal coat of this on your pork butt, I don't think you're going to get that ratio of salt onto the meat. You're going to come up with less salt doing this and than you would if you salted it first and then followed it up with a salt-free rub that had everything else in it. A 10-pound butt would take 10 teaspoons of salt, which is 3 tablespoons plus a teaspoon. That's almost a quarter of a cup of salt on a pork butt. So that's a good bit of salt, but it's a big piece of meat. And also, all of that salt's not going to work all of its way into that meat. Salt in that meat, it would take 7 or 8 days for that salt to work its way all the way inside of that meat. However, when you heat it, it'll work quicker. It'll move into the meat more quickly after the meat's heated. So it will work its way in really deep. But something to think about when you're buying rubs. And rubs are expensive. You know, these things, some of the rubs I really like are $14 and $15 a bottle. I think the rub that Jeff and I are going to talk about next week is one of the more expensive rubs I've ever bought. And you know, come to think of it, Jeff, that one I found that one in Academy Sports also. So
I'm trying to remember which one we were talking about.
Yeah, it's
I got to go look at our message here.
So we will, but we'll have some fun. We're going to do that once a month. We're going to talk about rubs and do a sauce and a rub review and conversation. And maybe at some point, I'll see if I can get some of the people that are involved in making those to come on with us and talk about them with us. So what else have we got?
I got that one.
Yep. But it's getting easier to get great rubs locally.
Oh yeah.
It's definitely, like I said, the Meat Church stuff was showing up in Walmart for a while, but I'm not so sure that it's in Walmart anymore.
Well, the other thing that I like too, John, is with Publix on the end cap, they're featuring their homegrown rubs.
Yeah.
From people that are like within your state of North Carolina. We'll have a bunch of people from Florida. And some of those rubs are pretty good, but they're only available at Publix.
I discovered a great barbecue sauce that way at our Publix. There's this restaurant down in Charlotte. There's 2 restaurants that were started by a competition barbecue team. Or actually the first restaurant had a barbecue competition team, and it's called Max Speed Shop is the name of the restaurant. And they have a Western North Carolina style barbecue sauce that's to die for. And I bought, I discovered that in Publix on one of those end aisles, end caps that you were talking about that had a whole end cap of barbecue sauces that were made in North Carolina.
Yep.
And, yeah, it was really good. Okay. So here's a good question. How long is a rub good after its expiration date? What do you think, Jeff? Do these even have expiration dates on them?
Some of them do. I don't pay attention to them. Just a pro tip to help you keep your rubs a little bit so they don't clump up on you. When I open up a new bottle, I'll take a small thing of saran wrap, put it on, and put the lid on. Gives it a more airtight.
Well, I got a couple of thoughts on this question. Number one, these, for what it's worth, don't seem to have an expiration date on them. But my first thought is number one, if you're anywhere near an expiration date on your barbecue rub, that means you don't like that rub very much, and you probably should just throw it away to begin with.
Yeah,
these
I agree with that.
these rubs don't last long. If you're using it, if you've got a bottle of rub that you have opened and you've still got any of that bottle of rub 2 or 3 months down the road, you're either not cooking enough or you don't like that rub enough to use it frequently enough to buy it again. Uh, there's nothing in the rub that's going to go bad. When you look at the ingredients in these rubs, I don't think there are any ingredients in any of these rubs that are going to go bad. What happens is they deteriorate, the flavors will deteriorate over time from oxidation and from exposure to light. So rule number one is keep your rub in a dark cabinet. Don't keep it out where it's going to get light from your kitchen or your indoor light fixtures or sunlight coming through a window. Keep it out of that. Keep it in the dark. Number one, because that's a big thing. And I'd really love to see them start putting these things in dark bottles, but I guess people want to be able to see the rub. But
Probably. That's
uh,
why I put the saran wrap over the top of before I put the cap on.
yeah,
It keeps it more airtight. Because let's face it, those flip down lids, they're not airtight.
no, they're not. And the other thing you can do is if you're really concerned about it, you can do like Jeff and I. We have vacuum sealers,
Mhm.
and you could open that bottle and take half of the bottle and put it in a vacuum seal bag and put that vacuum seal bag of rub in a cabinet somewhere in the dark out of the light, and it'll stay good. And I think it will stay good indefinitely in the dark in a vacuum seal bag. I really
I would
think
agree.
it would stay good for a really long time. When I make rub, uh, when I make a batch of my homemade pork rub, I make what would be the equivalent of probably 4 or 5 bottles of this at one time, and I keep bottles like this, and I'll refill them with my own rub. I'll just black out this and or I'll write over the top of it pork, and I know it's my homemade rub. And I'll when I cook a pork butt, this is enough. This is enough rub for me to do 3 pork butts or 4 if they're not very big. I can get 3. I would get 3 pork butts out of one bottle of that rub. So that means it's $3.30 worth of rub going on a pork butt if I'm buying a commercial rub. If I'm making my own rub, it's got about 50 cents worth of rub on it, if even that much. The rub ingredients that matter are salt, pepper, sugar, paprika, garlic, and onion. There are six ingredients that I think that matter in a pork or in a barbecue rub. The My opinion, this is all opinion. This is there's nothing I'm going to claim to be fact, but my opinion is that when you're cooking with the rub, those are the ingredients that matter. There's a lot of really great rubs out there, like some of the ones we mentioned earlier, the Kunami from Lane's, the Spellbound, some of these other rubs. One of the ones that I like to use an example is my Pork Mojo, the Man Cave Mills Pork Mojo. It's got cinnamon in it and clove and some other things like that that have a taste on the tongue, and they've got a great aroma when you open the bottle. But all of that is lost in the cook. I don't think any of that stuff that gives it that aroma when you open that bottle, I don't think any of that's left behind after a cook. Those 6 ingredients that I just mentioned are the ones that I think matter during the cook. If you've got stuff like orange peel or lemon zest or ginger, uh, Meatheads, I believe Meatheads Memphis Dust has ginger in it. Uh, I don't think ginger survives the cook very well either. Uh, his has got cayenne in it. Cayenne will survive the cook, but a lot of these ingredients that are designed to sell you on a rub, when you open the bottle and smell it and take a taste of it on your tongue, they are amazing and they're great sales tools, but they just don't last. through the cook. That's why I think rubs like that, you don't not buy them. That's the one you put on. That's one when you make that barbecue sandwich, you shake some of that on top of that pulled pork on the sandwich. That then you get all that. You get all that flavor. You get that aroma that's there. You get your money's worth out of it when you shake it on the sandwich as you're ready to eat, because you only have to take a little bit of it. Then you're not going to use a third of this bottle. You're only going to use a teaspoon of it maybe on your pork, on your sandwich. So consider that, think about that. And if you're not shaking some fresh rub on your meat as you eat it, try that, do that and see what you think. So anyway, we got to roll. I've gone 10 minutes over here.
You don't hear my Roddy snoring, do you, John?
I do not. Your audio has been perfect tonight, Jeff. I haven't had any issues with your audio.
He's snoring up a storm right behind me.
No, I'm not picking it up.
Mhm.
Nope. All righty. Well, guys, I appreciate you hanging out with us. And like I said, we'll be back next week. And we're going to be talking about a rub and a sauce next week. So we'll go from there. Until then,
hopefully I'll still be the last man standing.
Yeah, and if Jeff gets sick, we may postpone that. So we'll see you next week.